All right, so I saw earlier on today that Ariel Helwani had posted on Instagram that Nick Diaz was going to be on the Ariel Helwani show, and that's not gunshots outside. Someone's doing fireworks for some reason. But yeah, anyway, so I saw that earlier on today. I've just got into bed. It's quite late here in England, and I thought to myself, I'll catch it tomorrow. I'm just too tired to listen or watch it tonight, sort of thing. Um, but then I went on Twitter and I started seeing all this backlash and negativity towards Nick Diaz. So I just couldn't not watch it. So I went on YouTube, clicked the video, and I was pleasantly surprised to start with that they were both sat in the same room, and it wasn't one of these Skype interviews or phone interviews that you see Ariel Helwani do on a weekly basis. Now, as I was watching the video, I started understanding why people were being negative towards Nick Diaz, because some of the things that I saw people say was how he's incoherent, how he's clearly drunk, which I agree with. He was clearly drunk. How he needs help, how people were saying how they hope he finds the right kind of help to stop him being so upset and stuff like that. Brett Okamoto came out and put out a tweet saying he has no interest in watching Nick Diaz fight in this current state, something along those lines. Um, and I just think people need to man up a little bit, if I'm honest with you. Um, like these people that are making these sweeping judgments and statements about Nick Diaz, have you not watched a Nick Diaz interview ever before? When has Nick Diaz ever made a concise point? Ever? When has Nick Diaz been asked a question that he's been able to answer directly? What we basically, what we're seeing now on Twitter with regards to Nick Diaz and this interview specifically is two things. One is the fact that we just haven't seen him in an interview in so long. People have forgotten what Nick Diaz is about. Two, he was drunk. And how many of us that have enjoyed alcohol in our lives, how many of us that have been drunk have been able to make clear, concise, coherent points while we're talking, let alone do it on camera in an interview, which is a situation that Nick Diaz has openly told us he hates being in since the beginning of his career. We're talking about a man who, from day dot, has been uncomfortable talking to the media. He's always been uncomfortable in front of the camera. He's always been uncomfortable answering these questions that journalists put to him. He's always hated being in press conferences. This is a man that missed the press conference and lost the opportunity to have the biggest fight of his career up until that date, because he don't like being in press conferences. I think people have forgotten who and what Nick Diaz is. Yes, I agree, he was drunk. He clearly was drunk. He was slurring. He even said something about having a few drinks during the interview. I can't remember the exact quote. But what we got was just a drunk Nick Diaz. Like, I don't think he said or did anything different to what he's done and said in the past to make us feel now that this man needs help. It was just a drunk version of him. If now we're going to sit here and say, oh man, I've got no interest in this fight like Brett Okamoto did, then you should have had that energy 4-5 years ago when Nick Diaz was saying this same thing. Who remembers the press conference that he had when he was talking about wolf tickets and he was talking about how he doesn't know how to buy a house and he's from Stockton and there's no one helping him and blah blah blah. During that press conference, everyone laughed. Everyone was laughing at him. Now all of a sudden, because he hasn't had a fight in 5 years and people's memories are cloudy around Nick Diaz and what he is and what he stood for and how he conducts himself, now all of a sudden everyone's concerned about him. I don't know whether it's just society in general that they feel like they have to take the moral high ground, not to be seen like they're taking advantage of a situation. But we're not. He's clearly here saying that he wants to fight Jorge Masvidal in the Dallas Cowboy Stadium in the first few months of next year. He's clearly stated that he's got his brother's blessing to call Jorge Masvidal out and have that fight. What is there to hate about that? Now, obviously, if that fight gets signed, and a couple of months down the line, all we hear and see is how Nick Diaz is in this nightclub in Vegas, or he's in that nightclub in LA, and he's just drinking and he's not training and blah, 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 then fine. All right, okay, I can live with it, and I'll agree with you. Like, that's not the Nick Diaz that we knew from years ago. But during this interview, all we saw was a drunk man. And if you're going to question Nick Diaz for being drunk during an interview, fine, that's your prerogative. But we're talking about Nick Diaz. Do you guys even remember what this man is? Who this man is? Like, the reason why us as fans fell in love with Nick Diaz, the reason why he's this cult figure within the sport, and he's not really a cult figure, he's just an icon in the sport because so many people have a lot of love, time, and respect for him. The reason why that's the case is because he marches to the beat of his own drum. He always has, and he always will. That is the reason why he has the notoriety and the fame within the sport. That is the reason why people to this day want to see him fight again, like myself. It's because he's a rebel. It's because he does what he wants when he wants, and this is just another example of that. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that because Nick Diaz was drunk on this occasion during this interview, and that's the reason why you don't feel like he should fight again, then MMA's gone, mate. Honestly, like, the sport that I fell in love with was full of characters like this. The sport that I fell in love with was full of misfits that found this one thing where they could apply themselves and they could endeavor to be the best in the world. And that's the generation that Nick Diaz comes from. And if we just want to Reebok everyone off, and we just want everyone to behave, look, and feel the same, and then when they try and be outspoken and loud, we're going to start judging them for it because, oh, he's not being true to himself. Fine, that's you lot, that's not me. Because for me, what I saw was a bloke that is just being himself. Like, go back, I beg you, go back and watch a Nick Diaz interview from 4, 5, 6 years ago and tell me how coherent that is. Tell me, go back and watch an interview or a press conference where he's asked a question and then look for how long he talks. And I tell you now, 80% of those questions he doesn't even answer. He'll just go off on it. He even said it in this interview. People say to me, I go off on a tangent, blah, blah, blah. Look, he was drunk. It was clear as day he was drunk. But that's about it, man. You're talking about Nick Diaz. Have we all forgotten what Nick Diaz is? Like, have we all forgotten? Or have we just all turned into pussies? I don't know. But you lot need to chill the fuck out and just let him do what he's got to do, man. The only thing for me personally is I'm not sure whether if that interview was designed to have a fight made between Nick Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, I don't know how successful that was, because I just feel like the people that are in the MMA community nowadays, it's just not the same anymore, man. It's just not the same, and that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to hit the like button. Share this with a friend if you've enjoyed it. And if you're still here and you haven't hit the subscribe button, do it now, because I've been talking to you for 10 minutes. I'll catch you guys on the next one.